Once a young man came to me and said, "Sir, I have everything, a good job, good friends, even a new car, but still I'm not happy." I smiled and said, "My dear friend, happiness is not something you can own, it's something you must practice." You see, the problem is we chase happiness like it's hiding somewhere in success, in money, in relationships, in achievements. But true happiness is not out there, it's in here. And today, let's talk about how you can stay happy no matter what happens in your life. Not just for a moment, but for a lifetime. A gratitude over complaining sounds simple, doesn't it? But this one shift, this one practice, has the power to completely change your emotional world. You see, most people wake up in the morning and immediately think about what's missing. Oh, I didn't sleep enough. I have too much work. My phone's not charging properly. From the very first thought of the day, our mind starts counting what's wrong, and slowly we train it to look for negativity. But imagine this. You wake up tomorrow and instead of saying, "Oh, another long day," you say, "Wow, I got another day." Just that change from F complaint to wave gratitude shifts your energy completely. Because the truth is, gratitude doesn't change your situation. It changes your state of mind. You may still have challenges, but you start seeing life through a lens of abundance, not lack. Think about this for a moment. There are people who would give anything to have what you already take for granted. Your health, your home, your loved ones, even the air you breathe. These are blessings so constant that we forget to notice them. Once, I visited a hospital and met a man who had lost both his legs in an accident. And yet, he smiled and said, "I still have my hands, I can still work, I can still live." That day, I learned something profound. Gratitude is not about having everything. It's about making everything you have enough. When we start focusing on what's right, we create space for happiness to grow. Complaining keeps you stuck in the problem, but gratitude lifts you toward the solution. It's not that grateful people have no problems, it's that they refuse to let the problems steal their joy. So, the best way to stay happy is not to have a perfect life. It's to have a grateful heart. Every morning, before you touch your phone, just whisper a small thank you for waking up, for being alive, for having another chance to do better, love deeper, and live fuller. When gratitude becomes your attitude, happiness will no longer depend on circumstances. It will flow naturally from within you. Give more than you expect. This is one of the greatest secrets of lasting happiness. You see, we live in a world where most people are always asking, "What will I get?" instead of "What can I give?" And that's exactly where unhappiness begins. The more we chase personal gain, the emptier we start to feel. Why? Because happiness was never meant to be taken. It was always meant to be shared. Let me tell you a small story. Once, a young man came to his teacher and said, "I feel lonely, I feel worthless, I feel like nothing I do makes me happy." The teacher looked at him and said, "Go to the marketplace, spend your day helping 10 people. Carry someone's bag, feed someone who's hungry, smile at someone who looks sad. Then come back tomorrow." The young man did as he was told. The next day he returned with tears in his eyes. But this time, they were tears of joy. He said, "Master, for the first time in years, I felt alive." And the teacher smiled. That's because the moment you stopped focusing on yourself, you found yourself. That is the power of giving. When we give, we expand. When we give, we rise above our ego, that voice that keeps saying, "Me, me, me." Service shifts your attention from your own pain to someone else's peace. And ironically, the more peace you create for others, the more peace you find within. Think about the times you helped someone. Maybe you comforted a friend in pain. Maybe you shared your food with someone in need. Maybe you just offered a listening ear. Didn't that small act make you feel light? Didn't it make you feel connected, alive, and full of meaning? That's because the human heart is designed to give. It's our natural state, but here's the catch. Giving doesn't only mean money or things. It can be as time, kindness, attention, encouragement, forgiveness. Sometimes just being there for someone, fully, without distraction, is the greatest gift you can offer. The most unhappy people in the world are not the ones who have nothing. They're the ones who give nothing, because the joy of receiving fades quickly, but the joy of giving stays forever. So, start small. Give a smile. Give appreciation to someone who rarely gets it. Give your parents a few minutes of your full attention. Give a compliment that makes someone's day. When you make giving a habit, happiness stops being temporary. It becomes who you are. Because happiness isn't about how much you collect. It's about how much you contribute. And the moment you live for something greater than yourself, your heart starts glowing from within. Remember, the richest person is not the one who has the most. It's the one who gives the most. With love, with sincerity, with no expectations in return. That's the kind of happiness no one can take away from you. Detach. Don't escape. This is one of the most misunderstood ideas when it comes to peace and happiness. When people hear the word detach, they often imagine walking away, cutting off, or becoming cold. But that's not what detachment truly means. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging. It's not about running away from life. It's about living fully without getting lost in it. You can be in love, but not enslaved by love. You can work passionately, but not be consumed by work. You can have desires, but not be destroyed by them. That is the beauty of detachment. Let me tell you something beautiful I once heard. A lotus grows in muddy water, but the mud never touches its petals. That's how a wise person lives in this world, surrounded by noise, but rooted in peace. Most people think happiness will come when everything outside is perfect. When I get that job, when that person understands me, when life finally becomes easier. But life will never be perfect. And if your peace depends on perfection, you'll always be disappointed. True peace begins when you stop expecting the world to behave according to your preferences. That's what detachment gives you. A freedom from emotional slavery. Imagine you're holding a handful of sand. If you squeeze it tightly, it slips out. If you hold it gently, it stays. That's what happens in relationships, in careers, in dreams. The tighter you cling, the faster joy disappears. Detachment doesn't mean you stop enjoying life. It means you stop depending on life to make you happy. You still love people, but you no longer beg them to love you back in the same way. You still work hard, but your self-worth doesn't collapse when things don't go your way. You still care deeply, but you don't lose yourself in the process. That's why monks smile even when they have nothing, because they have learned the art of inner freedom. They may have detached from material possessions, but their hearts are full of compassion, love, and serenity. We too can live that way, not by giving up the world, but by giving up our attachment to how the world should be. Try this. Next time something doesn't go as planned, instead of saying, "Why did this happen to me?" say, What is this teaching me? This shift in perspective transforms pain into growth and frustration into wisdom. Remember, escape is weakness, detachment is strength. Escape says, I can't handle this, I'm leaving. Detachment says, I can handle this, but I won't let it break my peace. You don't need to live in a forest to find calm. You can live right in the middle of chaos and still be free inside. So don't run from the noise, learn to be still within it. Don't run from people, learn to love without losing yourself. Don't run from the world, learn to walk through it like the lotus, beautiful, untouched, and unshaken. Because when you master detachment, happiness stops being fragile. It no longer depends on who stays, who leaves, what changes, or what doesn't. It becomes your nature, calm, deep, and unbreakable. Control your inner dialogue, because that voice inside your head is the one that decides whether you live in peace or in pain. Every single day, from the moment you wake up to the moment you fall asleep, there's a conversation happening inside you, a constant whisper. Sometimes it encourages you, you can do this. And sometimes it breaks you, you're not enough. That voice, that inner dialogue, shapes your happiness more than your circumstances ever could. You see, the world outside can only affect you to the degree that your inner world allows it. Two people can face the exact same challenge. One grows stronger, the other collapses. The difference, the story they tell themselves in their mind. If you keep saying to yourself, I can't handle this, your mind will believe you. If you start saying, this is hard, but I'll find a way, your mind will rise to that belief. The words you repeat inside become the reality you live outside. Let me tell you a story. There was once a farmer who had an old horse. One day the horse fell into a deep pit. The villagers gathered and said, it's impossible to save it. Just let it go. The farmer didn't say a word. He started shoveling dirt into the pit, one load after another. At first, the horse panicked, thinking, they're burying me alive? But then, with each pile of dirt that fell, it shook the dirt off and stepped on it. Slowly, step by step, it rose higher, until finally it climbed out of the pit. Life works the same way. Your thoughts are like that dirt. They can bury you, or they can lift you. It all depends on what your error's inner voice tells you to do. When something goes wrong, most people instantly react with self-pity. Why is this happening to me? Nothing ever works out. Maybe I'm just unlucky. But that inner talk becomes a trap. It makes you a victim of your own mind. Instead, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? What is life trying to teach me through this? That one shift from complaint to curiosity changes your energy completely. The human mind is a powerful servant, but a terrible master. If you don't control your thoughts, they will control you. And once your mind starts running wild, happiness becomes impossible. Because every little thing outside can disturb the chaos inside. You cannot always control what happens to you, but you can, as always, control how you interpret it. You can choose whether a failure becomes a wound or a wisdom. You can decide whether rejection becomes the end or a redirection. That's why self-talk matters. The quality of your life is shaped by the quality of the words you whisper to yourself when no one's listening. Be kind to yourself. You are not your mistakes. You are not your fears. You are the awareness behind them, the silent witness that has the power to rewrite the story. Whenever your mind starts saying, I can't do this, pause, take a breath, and gently reply, maybe not yet, but I'm learning. Whenever it says, I'm not good enough, Remind yourself, I'm growing every day, and that's enough for now. This is not fake positivity. It's as mental training. It's teaching your mind to see hope instead of despair, strength instead of weakness, growth instead of defeat. Remember, happiness doesn't come from a peaceful life, it comes from a peaceful mind. And peace begins the moment you start talking to yourself like someone you truly love. So guard your inner dialogue like a sacred temple. Let no negative word enter unchecked, because whatever you plant there, doubt or faith, fear or courage, will eventually grow into the garden of your life. Speak gently, think wisely, encourage yourself daily, and soon your mind will stop being your enemy and start becoming your greatest friend. Don't compare, contribute. Because the moment you start comparing your life to someone else's, your happiness begins to disappear. Comparison is like a silent thief. It sneaks into your mind, and before you know it, it steals your peace, your gratitude, and your sense of worth. And the saddest part, you often invite it in through your thoughts, your conversations, and especially through that endless scroll on social media. You look at someone's perfect photo, their vacation, their success, their relationship, and somewhere deep inside, a small voice whispers, "Why not me?" That voice is the beginning of misery. You see, life was never meant to be a race. It's not a competition. It's a contribution. The moment you start measuring your journey with someone else's ruler, you forget your own path. Let me tell you a story. Once upon a time, a crow looked at a swan and said, "You are so white and beautiful. I wish I was like you." The swan replied, "I thought I was the happiest bird until I saw a parrot. It has two colors while I have only one." The parrot said, "I thought I was happy until I saw a peacock. It's covered in so many colors." So they all went to the peacock in the zoo. The peacock sighed and said, "My friend, every day thousands of people come to admire me, but I am locked behind these bars. I have seen the crow flying freely in the sky, and I realized the happiest bird is not the most beautiful, it's the one that's free." Isn't that how life works? We're all comparing, chasing, wishing to be someone else, without realizing that someone out there is wishing to be us. The truth is, comparison blinds you to your blessings. It makes you focus on what others have and forget what you've been given. And when you stop appreciating your own gifts, your joy slowly fades. No flower competes with the one next to it. It just blooms. And in doing so, it adds beauty to the entire garden. That's what you're meant to do. You don't need to be better than anyone else. You just need to be better than you were yesterday. Because happiness doesn't come from being the best, it comes from doing your best. And when you focus on contribution instead of comparison, life starts feeling lighter. You stop asking, "What can I get?" and start asking, "What can I give?" Look around. The people who seem genuinely happy are not the ones constantly trying to prove themselves. They're the ones serving, helping, creating, adding value in quiet ways. Their joy doesn't depend on being above others. It comes from being useful to others. You see, the more you compare, the more you compete. But the more you contribute, the more you connect. And happiness grows in connection, not in competition. So next time you feel that sting of comparison, pause. Remind yourself, they have their journey. I have mine. You don't know the battles they're fighting, the tears behind their smiles, the pain behind their success. And just because someone shines in one area doesn't mean you're dull. It just means your light shines somewhere else. Maybe their strength is career, but yours is kindness. Maybe their gift is beauty, but yours is empathy. Maybe their journey is fast, but yours is deep. When you stop trying to be like them and start becoming the best version of you, happiness begins to flow naturally. So, instead of scrolling through others' lives, build your own. Instead of comparing, start creating. Instead of wishing, start working. And instead of feeling jealous, start feeling grateful. Remember, you can't find peace while competing with others. You can only find peace by contributing to others. Because the happiest people aren't those who have the most applause. They're the ones who silently give, serve, and make the world a little better with their presence. At the end of the day, life is not about being someone else's highlight. It's about realizing that you are already a masterpiece, perfectly unique, beautifully imperfect, and full of potential to make a difference. So bloom where you are planted, shine in your own lane, and let your life be less about comparison and more about contribution, because that is where true happiness lives. Forgive to free yourself. Those 4 words can transform your entire life. Because forgiveness is not about them, it's about you. It's not about excusing what happened, it's about refusing to carry the poison of what happened. And yet, so many people walk through life dragging the heavy chains of resentment, thinking they're punishing the other person, when in reality, they're only punishing themselves. Let me tell you something powerful. Holding on to anger is like holding a burning coal, waiting for the other person to get burned. But the only one who gets hurt is you. We often say, I'll forgive when they apologize. But what if they never do? What if they never understand, never regret, never even realize how much they hurt you? Will you spend your whole life waiting, trapped in the prison of your own bitterness? Forgiveness is not approval. It doesn't mean what they did was right. It means you choose to be free, free from the pain, the hatred, the emotional poison that keeps repeating the past inside your heart. Let me tell you a story. There was once a monk who carried a woman across a muddy road. Hours later, his companion said, "Why did you carry her? We monks aren't supposed to touch women." The first monk smiled and said, "I left her on the road hours ago. You're still carrying her in your mind." That's exactly what most of us do. We carry people, words, and memories long after they're gone. The argument that ended years ago still plays in your head. The betrayal that broke you still lives in your heart. The person who hurt you may have moved on, but you're still carrying them every single day. And here's the truth: the more you hold on to the pain, the less room you have for peace. Your heart is like a vessel. It can be filled with anger or love, but not both. So, every time you forgive, you are not losing something. You are making space for joy to return. Many people think forgiveness is weakness. It's not. It takes tremendous strength to look at the person who hurt you and say, "You no longer have power over my peace." That's not weakness. That's emotional mastery. Forgiveness doesn't always mean reconciliation. You can forgive someone and still choose distance. You can forgive without inviting them back into your life. Forgiveness happens in the heart, not necessarily in the relationship. It's about cleaning your inner world, not fixing the outer one. Sometimes forgiveness is not even about others, it's about yourself. Maybe you made mistakes that still haunt you. Maybe you said things you wish you could take back. Maybe you carry guilt from the past that keeps whispering, "You're not worthy." My friend, it's time to forgive yourself too, because you cannot heal while you're busy punishing yourself. Every person on this planet has said and done things out of ignorance, fear, or pain. You did what you could with the awareness you had at that time. Now it's time to let go and move forward, lighter, freer, kinder to yourself. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past, but it rewrites your relationship with it. It transforms your wounds into wisdom, your pain into power, your suffering into strength. Think of forgiveness like cleaning a window. The dirt doesn't disappear because you ignore it. It only disappears when you wipe it away. And when you do, the light comes back in. Don't let resentment live rent free in your heart. It drains your joy, clouds your peace, and robs you of the present moment. The person who hurt you may not deserve your forgiveness, but you deserve your freedom. So take a deep breath, close your eyes, and whisper to yourself, I release you. I release this pain. I choose peace over poison. Because forgiveness is not something you do once, it's something you practice every time the memory resurfaces. And every time you choose to forgive again, the pain loses a little more power and your soul becomes a little more free. The happiest people are not those who never get hurt. They're the ones who refuse to let hurt define them. They don't carry anger, they carry understanding. They don't live in revenge, they live in peace. So forgive, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve to stop suffering. Forgive, not because it's easy, but because your heart was never meant to be a prison. Forgive, because happiness can't grow in a heart full of hate. Let go, not for them, but for your own peace. Because forgiveness doesn't change the past, it changes your future. Simplify your desires, because the more you need, the less you enjoy. The more you chase, the less you rest. And the more you want, the less you feel. We live in a world that constantly tells us that happiness lies in more money, more fame, more followers, more possessions, more recognition. But the truth is, happiness begins when more stops being your master. You see, desire in itself isn't bad. Desire gives us direction. It moves us forward. It helps us grow. But uncontrolled desire, endless, hungry desire, that's what drains the soul. Because when desire turns into greed, when it becomes never enough, you start living like a beggar even if you have everything. Let me tell you a simple story. Once, a fisherman was sitting quietly by the sea, playing with his child. A businessman walked by and asked, "Why aren't you out fishing? You could catch more fish." The fisherman smiled, and then what? The man said, "Then you can buy a bigger boat, catch even more, hire people, and build a business." The fisherman asked again, "And then what?" The businessman said, "Then you can relax, sit by the sea, and play with your child." The fisherman laughed gently, "But that's exactly what I'm doing now." We spend our lives chasing a future that, ironically, would give us the same peace we already have access to today. But we don't see it because we've been taught that happiness must be earned, not experienced. Simplifying your desires doesn't mean giving up on ambition. It means being very clear about what truly fulfills you. Because there's a big difference between progress and pressure. Progress uplifts you, pressure exhausts you. How many people work endlessly, buy endlessly, scroll endlessly, yet still feel empty? It's because every time you satisfy one desire, 5 new ones appear. You buy a new phone, and a month later, there's a newer model. You achieve one goal, and instantly set another without pausing to celebrate. You get love from people, but then you crave more attention, more validation, more approval. Desire multiplies faster than peace can catch up. And unless you learn to say enough, your mind will never stop chasing. The secret is not to have no desires, it's to have the right ones. Desires that serve your soul, not your ego. Desires that bring depth, not distraction. The desire to grow, to love, to help, to learn. These are pure desires. They create happiness. But the desire to compete, to control, to impress, these are empty desires. They destroy happiness. There's an old saying, contentment is not the fulfillment of what you want, it's the realization of how much you already have. Take a look around you right now. There are people sleeping on hospital beds praying for the health you take for granted. There are people who would give anything to live the life you're rushing through. But we rarely pause to notice because our eyes are fixed on what's next, not what's and now. Simplify your life, not by having less, but by wanting less. When you reduce your wants, you automatically increase your peace. Try this. Once in a while, deliberately step back. Spend a day without your phone. Sit quietly and breathe. Watch the sunset without feeling the need to capture it. Eat your meal without scrolling through a screen. Speak less, listen more. Do less, feel more. Own less, experience more. You'll realize something profound. When your life becomes simple, your joy becomes deep. The happiest people are not the ones who have everything. They're the ones who make the most of what they have. They aren't running after every glittering thing the world offers. They find meaning in small moments, in laughter, in love, in gratitude, in silence. Simplicity is power. It's the ability to live fully in this moment without being pulled by 1,000 unnecessary desires. When you simplify, your mind becomes calm, your relationships become genuine, and your life becomes light. So stop asking, how can I get more? Start asking, what can I let go of? Because the art of happiness isn't about adding, it's about subtracting. Subtract the noise, subtract the expectations, subtract the endless craving for more, and you'll find that what remains, peace, love, clarity, gratitude, is everything you were looking for all along. When you simplify your desires, you rediscover the quiet joy of just being. No performance, no competition, no pretending, just life pure, simple, and enough. Because sometimes the best way to be truly rich is to want nothing more.